Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Coach's Corner. My name is Dwayne Dwyer. I go by the Mindset Coach,
My name is the Uncle Junior, and I go by the Consistency Coach.
and we are your coaches for Coach's Corner. As always, my disclaimer listen, if you are here and you just want to watch it and just soak up the airways and do absolutely nothing with the information that we give you, you're just going to go back, get you some potato chips, pop open a cold one, and watch, just some TV, then yeah, this may not necessarily be the place for you. But if you want to grow, if you want to be better, you want to do better, you want to add value, you want to be an impact and impactful in your community and in your home for your people who you know, love, and care about, then you are in the right place. In fact, not only are you in the right place, you were destined to be there and listening to the sound of our voices. So we welcome you to this evening's conversation. Listen, before we get started, go ahead and right now, wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on YouTube, go ahead and click the like button right now and share this video so that whoever gets it can get it in the beginning, not halfway through and not closer to the end. So without further ado, let me speak to my brother, the Uncle Junior, the Consistency Coach. Sir, how are you doing on this beautiful evening?
Man, I'm doing great. I want to start the show by saying, man, I had a great conversation with you backstage for the last 50 minutes. We came in, we set a time to do the show, and we sometimes, I would say this, man, there are at my age, I'm pretty routine. I like to stick to routine is easy, it's simple,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah. So when I do things and they throw me off a schedule, sometimes I get a little antsy because I'm like, I still got to get these things done.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's okay to get off your schedule. My schedule is thrown off for the rest of the night, but I'm okay with it. Like, I don't even care. Whatever I was supposed to do, I ain't gonna do. So
Yeah.
I already know exactly what I'm gonna do now. When I get done with the show, I'm taking a shower, I'm gonna relax, and I'm gonna spend the rest of the evening with my wife. So whatever plans I had for myself, man, it wasn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to spend time with you, and I'm supposed to spend time with her. So
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
And I greatly appreciate it. Listen, this young man is already dropping nuggets. For all you married men out there, he just gave you the tea. I'm just keeping it real. He just gave you the tea. Like I'm on the other side of that right now. So I took my shower before I came down here
Mhm.
and hung out with you. And once we're done, I'm just going to go relax. I ain't got no
Yeah.
wife to spend the time with, but I'm going to relax and spend time with myself and meditate, think on things positive and things of that nature. But I love this. Let me go back because I greatly appreciate those opportunities. I told you before, I enjoy those one-on-one conversations. You help me with something, you help me realize with something, and I greatly appreciate that. And that's why it's important for men to be able to have conversations. And I'm not just making it an all male thing, but it's important. Wives, listen to me. It's important for the man to have another man that is a good sounding board to help him put together those thoughts that he's having. And men, I would venture to say the same thing for women. It's okay for your wife to have friends that outside of you ain't got to be a part of their conversation. Like she needs people that she can vet thoughts or she can vet her thoughts with as well. Because I think that's part of a healthy ecosystem. I don't and I already know this when I say this. Um, we don't necessarily have friends that get us in the shenanigans anymore. Like we
Mm-mm.
did that in our younger years. Those days are behind
Yeah.
us, right? We got friends that add value, and we seek to add value to them as often as we possibly can. So, to you, sir, I want to thank you for being that for me today. And then the continuation of that conversation, man, it was just again just continued just awesomeness, man. So,
Yeah, man.
greatly appreciate that. Um, before we
Speaking of
get
continuing conversations.
before we get too far, I want to make sure I acknowledge the awesomest chat in
Yeah.
social media. I just want you guys to understand that we appreciate you, we value you. You could be any place else on this evening, but you chose to be here with us, and we do not take that night lightly. So I want to make sure that we kind of acknowledge that as we go forward. So, man, are you ready to continue with this awesome conversation?
And you know what? I am. I'm excited for part two about this.
Me
Um,
too.
I was excited when you suggested it. I didn't think that, after running a marathon that I would be, sitting over here talking about it. I didn't really see the value and really how it could I just didn't think about it, you know what I mean? But,
Yeah,
as we talked about it, on the first show and we're going to talk about today, I can see how listening and hearing somebody's story and the journey can be very thought provoking. It can be very insightful, and it can cause people to grow. Sometimes you just get there's more information added to your plate.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. You talk about it. Um, you say you do hard things, and I think that's a great place to spin from. I
Mhm.
think because a lot of people they tend to set goals that are easy for them to attain. And the reason why they never really experience the best version of themselves because they set the bar too low.
Mhm.
But why not listen to your point about the value in this conversation? Listen to somebody who made a decision to do something hard. We're talking about an individual who decided to say, you know what? I ain't never ran this far before in my life, but I'm gonna do a 26-mile run. And I joke when I say it, I ain't gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it.
Mhm.
But it's just a decision that I made.
Yeah.
Do I believe I could do it? Sure. But I would model my train up after yours, knowing that where you started in your training, I probably need to start back over here and get to that point to where you are before I pick it up. But this can also be picked up because it's almost like cookie cutter if you think about it. You could pick it up, move it, and place it over here and say, I want to start a company. Pick it up, move it, place it over here and say, hey, I want to be a real estate investor. Pick it up, move it, and put it any place you want to, and recognize that the thing that you're doing, if you didn't set the bar high enough to where it causes some type of intimidation factor, right? Then that might be evidence that the bar that you set is too low. And so
Mhm.
this is literally a blueprint on how to do hard things. So yeah, no introduction night, man. Let's just
Yeah.
dive into it because we've already started. And I think this is going to be a good conversation. So I want to do a quick recap.
Okay.
First and foremost, if you did not watch last week's show, you got to go back and look at it because I can't truly encapsulate everything that he said as he talked through it, shared some stories that led up to this point where we are right now, so forth and so on. So he mentioned last week he talked about running track in high school. He talked about Michigan. He talked about his brother, his friend Clyde. Clyde, shout out to you, bro. Again, congratulations.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
oh, he's Jamaican.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Um, he gave us his background in the army when he first came in the army, and how he missed being with his significant other who was pregnant. She was in Virginia. He was in Fort Carson, Colorado,
Mhm.
um, and intentionally failed APFT. And we kind of talked about that a little bit. And then he said he didn't like running the army, and he talked about his relationship with Sergeant Major Lampkin. Um,
Lampkins, yep.
yeah, and how he was drawn to his leadership. And then he left you with five great points. I mean, I'm sorry, four great points that I'm not going to give you right now because if you didn't watch it last week, you're just going to miss it. So go back and watch the last show so that you can get those four great points. And that kind of brings us to where we are. I don't want to steal your thunder because I think you were doing an amazing job on the story to get you here. Um, I want to kind of turn it over to you and let you guide us where you want to take us next.
All right. I'll move forward, to Iraq. I kind of talked about, well, I already kind of talked about that a little bit in Iraq when I was running around the Z Lake and I was doing the 5Ks every month. So I guess what I'll do now is I'll kind of pick back up from more of the current and kind of where I am right now. So I retired in 2017. So when I got out, my last job, I was a platoon sergeant. So I had three staff sergeants who worked for me, and they had some soldiers. And so I had to still, in a sense, kind of play army. I still had soldiers, so I still had to perform. And when I got out, I never stopped. I kept I kept it going. Part of the reason why was I remember being a young soldier in Fort Carson, and just hearing all of these stories about how people, once soldiers, once they retire, they sit around on their butt, they watch TV, and then they die early because they've been working and they've been taxing their body for 20, 30 years, and then all of a sudden they sit down. So I kind of heard early on, when you stop moving, letting your body know that it's time for it to get ready for the dirt. So that was part of the reason that kept me going at the time when I got out 17. So what is this, 24? So that was what, 7, 8 years ago. So when I got out, I still had young kids too. So my sons now are 29, 22, and 19. So you can do the math back. So I still had little kids. So, and them jokers were starting to grow. The youngest one ended up topping out at about almost 6'2". So it's like, you have to stay in shape because these jokers over here, you know what I'm saying? Like, they might want to try me one day. So, dad got to stay in shape. So let me keep running. Let me keep going to the gym. Got into some CrossFit, different things like that. Um, but what happened and what was really kind of changed my life and really alluded and sent me on this journey to do a marathon was during COVID, during the pandemic, during that time, right when we were locked down and everybody was at the house. Well, during that time, is I really, really went deep in on myself and I started learning about myself. And what I did was I just went on a journey and I just started running. So like Forrest, I was running, right? I didn't run and run straight. I ran and I think I got up to, I want to say, I keep forgetting if it's 108 or 109 days. So I did 109 days straight. And then I think I did the first 60 or 70 and just running. And then I was like, man, I don't need to run every day. I probably need to start walking some. So I started incorporating some rucking, some walking with the weight vests and different things like that. But during that time, I wasn't listening to music. I had the headphones on, but I was listening to David Goggins and Eric Thomas and Kobe Bryant and motivational speakers and podcasts and information and just learning from scientists and nuclear physicists, from all these different people. And I started developing a love for time alone, right? That time alone when I was getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and I was for running or walking for an hour and a half in the morning. You know what I mean? And I was just getting the information and I was learning who I was. And during that time, one of the guys who stuck it out, who really made an impact on my life was David Goggins. David Goggins pretty much gave you no excuse to not do anything. And one of the things that he said one time was part of the problem is that we set our goals too low. He said that we oftentimes set goals that we know we can achieve. He said what we need to do sometimes is set goals that we don't know if we're going to be able to do it, but it's kind of like that, like set a high goal. And from somebody who did not like running, setting a goal of running a marathon was not something that I wanted to do. Like I didn't like running. I still don't love running. I don't. I do it sometimes. Sometimes I enjoy it, but I enjoy the benefits of running and I enjoy the me time that I spend putting information in. I enjoy that, not so much the running. So during this time is kind of when that bucket list started getting built and the word marathon got thrown into the hat. So I'll stop right there. I know we kind of I talked about some things, and I know it's give you time to kind of come in and ask any questions or something like that. So what you got right now?
No, this is so. First and foremost, thank you for all of that, and that was
Mhm.
good. I like the comment about David Goggins and Eric Thomas and things of that nature because I've listened to a lot of those people, and during COVID, that's kind of like when I started ingesting a lot more of it.
Mhm.
My go-to was definitely Eric Thomas, Miles Monroe, John Maxwell, so forth and so on. And I would
C.T.
rotate.
Fletcher.
CT Fletcher as well. That's right. I would rotate between those
Yep.
guys because I got something different from each of them. If I wanted to focus on
Mhm.
the Bible, it was definitely Miles Monroe. And I'm sorry, during that time, it was also T.D. Jakes during that time. Um, but then if I wanted like just motivational speaking, it was Eric Thomas. I left off another one. It was Eric Thomas. It was C.T. Fletcher. Depended upon the mood I wanted to be in, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, and
Ray Lewis got some good stuff too.
I've never listened to Ray, but six big old huge guy, real popular. Tony Robbins. Tony
Tony
Robbins was
Robbins.
another one. So those are the people that I would listen to, and I would rotate between those guys because I got something different
Yeah.
from them. And here's the best part about it: a lot of them said the exact same things that you said that David Goggins said, but I know that they said it differently than how
Mm.
David Goggins says it. Right?
Yeah.
Um, what I want to kind of touch on because I think this would be uplifting for other people when during the time of COVID, and you said you had a lot of opportunity to sit with yourself and you learned something about yourself. Can you kind of share with us just a little like what did you learn? Because I think that's a pivotal moment as I listen to all of this. Something in there that you learned about yourself, I believe, and I could be wrong, and I want you to help clear it up for me. Is something in there that you learned about yourself that kind of propelled you or gave you permission to do something. So if you can kind of like shed some light on that, just tell me I'm in left field or tell me I'm right on spot, either or, but just kind of help us process that.
I kind of learned that this is who I am. Like this is the person I have to be. Um Good, bad, or different. More so the person I have to be. Um Here's why I have to be this person. I have 3 sons. I don't have a father. My father died at 63. I never met either one of my biological grandfathers. Um, we haven't had any men in my family to make it out of 70, right? No one made it to that number 70. So I have 3 sons, I have 2 granddaughters, I have nieces, I have nephews, I have cousins, second, third cousins who I have or who have kind of adopted me as their uncle. So there's a lot of people um that I want to be here for. And fitness and my health is a priority because this allows me to be here for them. Not to mention, I have a wife. My wife is younger than me. So just based off the data and statistics, more than likely I'll be out of here before her. But at some point, my wife is going to be a widower. So and she knows that, and that's what she signed up for. We both signed up for this. Yeah, she gonna be rich when I die, but that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? She's supposed to have something, supposed to leave her something. But I have to be around here for her. She's gonna be a widower, but I'd rather her be a widower for 7 years, 10 years versus 20 years, 30 years, because I didn't croaked out of here earlier. I'm 48. I was bawling in my truck last week going to work because I couldn't talk to my father because I wanted to talk to him because I was going through something and he ain't here. So I have to be here for all of these people. And and sometimes it's freaking hard. But I learned that this is who I am. This is who I have to be. And I have accepted this challenge and it's a good thing. I'm enjoying the journey. It allows me to meet new people. But I guess, I'm saying all this to say that I learned that this is who I'm supposed to be as a man. I'm supposed to be one of those people um who stays in shape and who continues to work on himself, because that is part of my voice and part of my help, and a part of the way that I can give back and help other people is through my health, through my fitness, and just being around here long enough time, um so I can be here for my family. So when my kids call me and they're 48 years old, I can pick up the phone. When they're telling me, "Hey, Dad, I'm going through something," I can answer the phone. When my granddaughter called me and said, "Hey, Pop, can you come to my graduation?" And I can go. When my great grandkids call me and say, "Grandpa, can you come to my football game?" And I can go. So I learned that this is who Unc is. And I learned that this is who Unc has to be too. So it's not only who I am, it's who I have to be. So that's kind of what I learned. And I didn't mean to get mushy on y'all, but it is what it is. And I'm okay with it.
So never, and I know it wasn't an apology, but I want to say this for everybody to understand. Never feel the need to apologize for you being honest and transparent. And I thank you for doing that, because you got me over here, man. I got this one tear sitting
Well,
in the
you
corner of my
see
eye.
me?
Listen, I got this one tear sitting in the corner of my eye that won't come out. So I'm gonna rub it out. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
a man about it. Right. But I thank you for being that transparent, because one of the things and so everybody, I want you to understand, I did not know what the answer to my question was. But here's what I do know. I know it's not just a physical appealing thing that he is in pursuit of. There is a very strong why behind why he does what he does. And I'm so glad that you laid all the cards on the table just now and flipped them over. Because for the person out there who is just going to the gym and working out and exercising and running and doing all this and doing all that just simply because they like the way they look, that is a fleeting moment and it won't last long. But at the end of the day, what you have to realize is that when it comes down to it, like, it has to be a very strong why. And man, here's the funny part about it. Like, my father is still here and
Hmm.
we're working on our relationship now. But at one point in time, it wasn't that good. It was like we would go like a whole month without talking. And then when we did talk, I can look at my clock and hit a stopwatch and start timing how long it would be before we get off the phone. 5 minutes tops. That's it. And then, and I'm not blaming him. I'm
Yeah.
blaming our connection. That's what I'm saying. Um, and so I get it. Everything you said, like, I could see myself in the story that you're telling. I want to be here for my kids. I got four, two girls, two boys, all adults, right? My oldest is 30 years old. Like, we kind of shared you and I shared
Yep.
these, but everybody else don't know that. My oldest is 30. My baby boy will actually be 20 tomorrow. So at the end of the day, when you look at it, like, I want to be here for those young people. They're going to start having children. Like, my oldest has a son, Shamir, that my grandson. I want to be here to see that young man play football if he chooses to play football. If he
Yep.
want to play basketball, I want to see that. If he want to play soccer, if he want to be captain of the chess club, I don't care. I want to be there for it. And at the end of the day, it has to be something bigger than you that drives you to, I mean, just to push yourself to a limit. So thank you for sharing that, man. And I hope as you guys listen to him tell his story, if it didn't touch you, I ask you to go back and listen to it again. Because if you couldn't identify your why within what he was saying, then maybe the why that you currently have isn't strong enough. So I kind of want to kind of put that out there. Now, are there benefits that come along with that type of dedication? Sure. There's always going to be secondary and tertiary effects, but those secondary and tertiary effects can't be the number one thing that drives you to do the thing. So I greatly appreciate you sharing all that, man. It's I'm loving all of this because another thing that I mentioned that you mentioned was about as you started doing this, as you started spending that alone time, that me time, and you say you have a great love for that time. Um, I know that there are certain people out there who believe relationships shouldn't be that. I didn't get in a relationship to be alone or spend time with myself or whatever the case may be. But I like that you articulated the alone time and why, not just alone time for the sake of having alone time. I like to say, and I continue to say it: garbage in, garbage out. But you wasn't putting garbage in, bro. You were putting fertilizer. You were putting, topsoil. You was planting seed, and those things at some point have to take root, and they will grow, and you will reap the harvest of the things that you put in, all the way back here. So for all of you who are listening to us, there's going to be a harvest that you're going to reap from all of these conversations that you're listening to. So I want to put that out there as I give my brother time to breathe over there. No, man, you're good, brother. You're good. Um, so now that we've gotten beyond COVID, now that we've gotten to the point to we started to find our stride, you mentioned that that the whole bucket list was created, and
Yeah.
then in that bucket list, somebody just they tossed a marathon in there.
Yeah.
How did that transpire? What did that look like?
Well, it just went in there and then it just sat in there and it was just in there. I was like, I ain't touching that one no time soon.
So did somebody
Then,
mention it to you? Like,
I don't know. It was just it needed to be something. It was just one of the things that just went on the list, you
yeah,
know. I don't know if I was drunk at the time or loony. I don't know. I don't know what made me think that I should put a marathon on the bucket list, because that's not something that most people do. Like
yeah,
that's less than 1% of the population competes and completes a marathon.
yeah.
So, but when you run and when you're in running groups, like I'm in two different running groups. I'm in a running group called Clayton Area Runners, shout out to Carr, and I'm in a running group called BMR, Black Men Run. So I'm in two
Okay,
different running groups. And
yeah,
matter of fact, every once a month, the BMR, that's the only one I really go to because they run in the morning. Most of the other groups they run in the evening.
yeah.
Um, so once a week, once a month, I run with BMR.
Mm-hmm.
And all them jokers done ran marathons in car.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody done ran a marathon. So it seems like this is something that everybody has done,
Yeah.
So I'm just like, darn, everybody done ran a marathon. But that's only because I'm around those people. So it looks
Mm-hmm.
like that. When I pull myself out of that group, then nobody done ran a marathon. Like I don't think I can name two. I can't name any off the top of my head. Any of my friends that have ran or completed a marathon. Anybody like I call my friend. Now there
Yeah.
may be somebody who just maybe I just don't know, but they probably ain't my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of got dropped in there. Um, and then years went by in 2022, 21. The year 22 was the year of accomplishments. There was a lot of stuff got done.
Mm-hmm.
I finished my master's that year. I did what else happened? Got married that year, and then me and Shell did our first half marathon then. So that was the first thing. So my goal back then was to do a half marathon and then wait a couple months and then can train up and then do the marathon. Well,
Yeah.
I did the half marathon and got broke off. And I was like, man, I don't know if that marathon ever gonna come to fruition.
Yeah.
So for a minute, marathon wasn't on there anymore, because the half, I did it. Me and Shell did it together. Well, we started together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we ran separately once we took off. Um, But so we did a lot of stuff in 2022. So I kind of put it to the back burner. Then I started getting around here, hanging around y'all old heads. You enrolling on Friday night and talking about being 50 and all this other stuff, man. I'm just like, man, I'll be 49 this year. So in
Yeah.
25, I'll be 50. In 2025, I'll be 50. So
Yeah.
it's like, man, I wanna, I kind of, I ain't getting no younger. So I might want to go ahead and start knocking this marathon out sooner than later.
Yeah.
So sometime this year, earlier this year, I was like, look, I need to go on and knock this marathon out. Um, before I turn 50. So what I'm gonna do is I'll put it on the board for this year. If something happens, if I get hurt, if I get injured, if something comes up, I can't train, then I still have another year to train. So next year, I kind of gave myself 2025 to have a cushion. So I guess right about now, it was about almost a almost 6 months or so ago, I was like, you know what, bro, it's about time to do it. You need to go on and start making a plan, make it a goal, put it on your list, and make it happen. Actually, I did it in February. I did it in February. I'm over here looking at my which color right now. Let me show you real quick. So I got a calendar for the whole year, and it's called Build Your Creed, Live Your Creed. So I mark out most of it, like my whole calendar. So this is a calendar for the year. So I start in January putting things on the calendar. So this year I got all of my events in orange. So I did a Cupid run, I did a 5K, I did a 5K and that was in February. I did one in March. I did a couple Spartan races, three of them in May. I did another 5K. I did Murph. So I just had some things on the list that I've some running events on the list that I wanted to knock out this year. And I put marathon on there, and then I found one. I didn't put a date on it. I put a month, and my month was November. And then I ended up finding one at another month, but then someone else suggested that I do that one. So I signed up for that one. But man, a few weeks ago, bro, I got tired of training.
I got you.
So I was like, man, I told Shell, I was like, look, I'm tired. And then I was looking online and the hotels, they didn't have any hotels within like a 6 mile radius.
Mm.
I had to be at work early in the morning. So I was getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, trying to do 8, 10 miles, and then take a shower and eat and then go to work all day long. And it was just like, it wasn't that I was tired. It was just getting up in the morning. Like you go
Mm.
to bed, like, man, 3 o'clock roll around here real quick. You outside in the dark and ain't nobody out there but owls and coyotes and frogs. And, it's like, it's dark and sometimes it be scary out there
Yeah.
sometimes, but because ain't nobody out there, but it's just me. And so I put it on the list. I did it the next week and then went up there um and did the thing. But I before I go through that, I wanna before I get to like the actual day, I wanna go back a little bit to the training plan. So my training plan started, I think, a week or so.
Can I jump in real
Oh,
quick?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
'Cause I was just about to you're in sync. You're right where you need to be at because I
Okay.
want to get there. But I
Yeah.
kind of want to make sure that we give them what we said it was going to give them
Yep.
first. Now, here's the thing, and I want everybody to kind of flow with me because we started talking about some of them already. We just wasn't sharing them at the point. So I want to bring them up. So one of the first key points is failure as a mirror, right? Discovering unseen limitations and hidden strengths. And if you've been following along with the story, we kind of talked about that in some great detail, right? And then, we talked about a little bit detaching worth from outcome, cultivating a resilient identity. And there were levels of resiliency that we talked about here. He talked about resiliency as it pertained to him being in an army. Talked about resiliency as pertaining to him not, liking to run. Resiliency, mental resiliency, being separated from his girlfriend who was pregnant at the same time. So all of those things factor in as it pertained to it. Now, this is the point I really want you to kind of talk us through your train up for a marathon, because again, this is a huge event. So it's not like, oh, I'm gonna do a marathon in 2 months. So yeah, I'm gonna do it like this. So just kind of help us go back to where you were as you started to walk us through your train up.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, we are in sync. Yeah, man. So to train up for it, they have, I've been running, I've never really stopped. I've taken some short breaks here and there, but I stayed running. Mostly because running for me, it just helps keep that little layer of fat off. It keeps the heart going good and stuff like this. Like the heart loves it. The heart loves the running and the walking. The heart like it. You got a strong heart, you can do a lot, strengthening your legs, stuff like that, you know what I mean, strengthening your mind. So they had some 6 week plans, not 6 weeks, 16-week plans, 20-week plans. Those are around the average that usually people get into, depending on where they're starting from. So when I started, I had already had a pretty good base. I could run I could run 5 miles in 45 minutes. So I was, well, right around 50 minutes. I was just up under like the Army standard time. So I was, and then I could run a 5K in about 26 minutes or so. So I had a decent base for my age. Um, so I'll decide, you know what, I need a little bit longer than 16 weeks. I want to drag it out a little bit. So I came up with a 20-week plan. And during those 20-week plans, it consisted of at least 4 days of running. There was a run on Monday, there was a run on Wednesday, a run on Thursday, and then there was the long run on Saturday. Well, I think I did 2 weeks, and then me and Michelle went to Germany for 2 weeks. But actually, I know, I think I'd already did a month already, and then me and Shell went to Europe for 2 weeks. So we was in Europe. We having fun. We in Germany. We in Switzerland, the Vatican, Italy, France. Like we over there having a good time. We sipping, hanging out with my cousin. Like we had good time. It was in Germany, traveling, walking, all the things, taking pictures. So, but bro had to still training, because when you take 2 weeks off, that's a lot. You know what I mean? So some people like, hey, I'm on vacation, I'm just chilling. Bro couldn't chill on vacation. I chilled, but I got up in the morning sometime, and I had to go out there and I had to go beat that pavement up. And I'm in a whole different country. I'm in Germany. I only ran in Germany. I didn't ran in other places. I didn't really feel safe when we was in Rome. And I was like, nah, I'm good over here. So I didn't run, but I did run. I think my longest run there might have been 9 miles. So I had to run 9 miles, and my cousin's like, Junior, did you run today? And I'm like, yeah, man, I ran. It was like, we asked me, was I going to run? And I was like, yeah, I'm still going to run. So, I did that, came back from Germany, had to keep running, and then came back, had a week or so, and then school started. Well, when I started working a different job. So here's another obstacle. Now I had to before I didn't have to be at work until 8:15, so I could get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I still put miles in at that time, and I still be okay to get to work. Well, the new job got to be there at 6:45. So I like to be there a little earlier. So at least that means at least 6:30 for me. So each week the mileage would increase, so on Saturdays it was 9 miles, and then it was 10 miles, and then it was 11 miles, and then 12 miles, all the way up until 21. Right. And then once it hit 21, there was a leveling off, as a tapering phase that you kind of go through for about 3 or 4 weeks before you hit your actual marathon. So you train up hard for like 16 weeks, and then you taper for the last month, and then you go out there and you run your marathon. Well, I only made it to 20 weeks because, like I said, I was done and I was ready to get it over with, But doing that training, there was a lot of obstacles. When, like I said, when I came back, I had to work. So now I'm trying to squeeze in, 10, 11, 12 miles before work. Did I have to do it before work? No, but that's what works best for me. I don't want to wait until I come home from work at 3:30 in the afternoon and I'm tired. Oh, and by the way, it's the summertime and it's 90 something degrees. So I had to run, or I wanted to get it done in the morning. For me, it's when I had to do it. So I did it in the morning, got my run in and stuff. So all of these are adjusting in my life, Shell's getting up in the morning, fixing breakfast and stuff like this. She's up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with me and stuff like this, and I don't see her to the evening. And so it was a lot. We had family reunion at the time, and then right after the family reunion, we had a couple of deaths in the family. So, it's been an ongoing journey. Like, life don't stop just because you're training for something, Life don't stop just because we have goals that we want to achieve, and sometimes our goals can sometimes be hindered because of life, and sometimes we can let life hinder our goals. There were some people who'd have went to Germany for 2 weeks and be like, man, I'm done. I ain't doing nothing for 2 weeks, and then come back and be like, you know what? That's it for me. I'm done. I don't feel like training no more for this marathon. Then they would have been out. You know, 10 years ago, that probably would have been me. Just being honest, I probably would have checked out like, bro, like, nah, coach, I ain't doing this thing no more. But it was something that I wanted to see to the end. So the training was full of, different things. And to be honest, it's a lot, it's 20 weeks, a lot of stuff go on. There's a lot of different types of weather. Like, it's rain, it's cold, it's freaking heat. And then you have to train your body because you have to fuel your body. Because I ran for 5 hours and 3 minutes. So that was a long time. So it's like you gotta be hydrating yourself. You gotta like do salt tablets. Like, you have to fuel yourself. It's like driving from Virginia to California. You can't just go there on one tank of gas and think you're gonna make it. You gotta stop a long way and fuel up your vehicle. You have to do the same thing on the marathon. So I had to figure out what foods I can eat before, during, like certain goos and stuff like this. My stomach, it don't agree with my stomach. So there was only one that I could really take. So even though they had them on the run and I knew what they were going to have, I couldn't take advantage of them because they upset my stomach, you know? And then you got to carry a certain amount of water with you when you're training. Like, when you're out there for 3 hours and you're at a training run and you're out there by yourself, you don't have nobody to bring you water. You don't have nobody to bring you, your snacks and your salt tablets and stuff. You have to pack all of that stuff with you. So you got to take it with you, So you starting off heavy and you're trying to make it through the whole time. So there's a lot of different challenges, that come with just a 20-week train up for anything, whether you're in school, whether you're training for an event, 20 weeks is a long time. And there are a lot of things that come up during those 20 weeks.
Yeah, I'm glad you recognized what agreed with your stomach and what didn't agree with it, because
Mhm.
you could have had a situation. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, if you're
And you
taking,
still do have them
yeah,
at my age.
oh yeah, yeah. If you're taking notes, you probably got a notebook full of notes already just listening to this young man talk. But I kind of want to help pull out some of the things that he said because I love it. He showed you a calendar, and in that calendar, you've seen milestone events, right? Anytime you're doing like some type of goal setting, whatever the case may be, you put the goal out there and then you backwards plan from the goal. The milestone events were key for him. And if I'm speaking in error, please stop me and let me know. The milestone events were key for him, even though he may not have decided to do the marathon yet. They were key because it allowed him to see where he was. So when he made the decision to do the milestone, like you said, he had a pretty good start. He had a pretty good base to begin with. So I like the fact that you took the time to show us your calendar, because I think that may have helped somebody. Like, you just can't say, "Hey, I want to do this," and do absolutely no planning in between. That sounded really good, what you said you want to do, but how much did you really believe that you wanted to do it if you didn't put any thought energy into what it's going to take to get there? So thank you
Mm-hmm.
for sharing that. I love how you talked about, regardless of whatever it is you want to do, life gonna keep on lifing, right?
Yeah.
Certain things happen in life, family dynamics happen, vacation happens, all of these things happen. And those things, although for some people it stops them from doing what they said they wanted to do, what you got to do is find a way to maneuver around it. You can still do those things, but like he said, he was in Germany, he was running. He was in Rome, he was running. He was in Italy. Like, you got to keep, you have to be determined. So when we talk about, a lot of times you hear people talking about resiliency, some of that is being resilient against your own wants. Because trust me, he in Germany, he and his wife, they're hanging out,
Chilling.
they enjoying life. It would have been too easy to say, you know what, I'm not going to do any train up while I'm here. We're just going to enjoy ourselves and whatever the case may be. But he had a goal in mind, and he kept it there, and he did not deviate from that goal. So I thank you for sharing that. And again, if you're not taking notes, you're missing a golden opportunity to gain information and wisdom from someone who does hard things. Now, during your train up, you had a mishap.
Mm-hmm.
Shared that with me. You had an injury. I want you to kind of like tell us what the injury was, if you don't mind. And if you don't want to go into details about it specifically, I get that. But I really want to understand how that injury didn't stop you. Like, you looked at that injury and you did the things that you needed to do as part of recovery. But and I'm asking this because from a physical standpoint it can seem challenging, but sometimes what people tend to do is allow the injury, or the thought of that injury, or the thought of re-injuring themselves, to prevent them from pushing. So how did you get the opportunity to take in that injury, which some people can perceive as failure, right? um how did you go from dealing with that injury and then pushing that towards the overall goal, if you will?
All right. Well, I kind of had two kind of situations that um kind of threw me off a little bit. Well, I'll start with even one before then. I'm 48. I had back surgery before I turned 40 years old. So I already had back surgery. I already been under the knife, all those years in the military and stuff like that. And I still deal with chronic back pain to this day. It's just part of my life now. It's just pain management. So one was my knee. So I hurt my knee years ago. So I started wearing a little knee strap right up under my knee. And what that did is some kind of ligament or something that runs down. So when that thing is on there, it kind of applies some pressure and you don't really feel the pain. So I was running for that for a while, but then as I started running bigger runs, it was like something was wrong. It was still hurting. So I took it off, dealt with the pain. Somebody said, you probably need some salt tablets. Maybe you ain't got enough salt. So between the salt tablets and just dealing with that, I kind of got over that. The pain wasn't as bad. But the main one that coach is talking about is on my knee. I mean on my toe. So that's what you're talking about, right? Yeah. So what happened was, I don't know, but doing this training, I started having some toe issues. Like my big toe was all jacked up, and I was like, man, I don't know what's going on. So I finally, went to the doctor, got it X-rayed and stuff like that, and come to find out, I've had so much wear and tear that my bone now there's no cartilage in between, and I'm bone on bone. So sometimes it can be painful down there. Sometimes it's like you can't even put on a shoe or anything. I didn't know if it was gout. I was like, man, I hope it ain't gout, but I hope it ain't bone on bone either. So it ended up being bone on bone, which means there's nothing that I can do about it. It's just wore out and it's just something I have to deal with it. So this takes me back to Mr. David Goggins again. And like I said, leaving me with no excuse. So David Goggins is a guy who has been through, Navy SEAL training, I think like 3 times. He ran, he had, shin splints and hairline fractures and stuff like that in his legs. And, he's taped them up every morning, even though he was in pain. And like he said, once he kept running, after a certain amount of time, the pain kind of got numb and it went away. And like he said, and like what I'm saying too, I'm not advocating, I'm not here to tell people that they should run hurt or that they should run injured. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, for me, because I've done this. I've been trained to run and push through when I'm in pain, when I'm hurt, when my wife leaves me, when my kids hang up the phone on me. I'm still trained to where if the mission still needs to be accomplished, regardless of what goes on. So regardless of the pain that I had in my toe, the mission was going to go on because I had already put too much time and effort into this run, and I ain't want to have to start over again from scratch in 2025. So I told my toe, I tell that joker something. I'm like, look, toe, I don't know what you're gonna do, brother, but we're gonna get through these 8 miles today. Now, I'm gonna make it through. Now, however you want to act is up to you. But we're gonna get these 8 miles done. And most of the time, toe cooperated, but sometimes toe didn't cooperate. But Toe made it through, and Toe did them 26 miles because Toe don't run nothing over here. You know what I mean? Toe live down staffs on the bottom flow, and he responsible for balance. He don't run nothing else. So my toe don't dictate when we run and when we don't run. And some of that mindset is came from Goggins, and some of that came from just being in the military and being a private. And I ain't saying all of it is good, because there were many times where I probably should have went and sought treatment, and I didn't, because we were taught early on that there was being weak to go and get help and go and get somebody to look at your injury. So good, bad, or indifferent, that's what got me through that toe injury. Mr. David Goggins and telling Toe who run the show.
I love it. And for those of you, excuse me, for those of you who um, are new to running, who haven't really ran, like we're talking about here, that toe is a major deal. Like that's part
Remember
like,
Shaq had turf toe
mhm,
back in the day?
yeah, Shaq and Dion and all those guys had it.
I was like, man, he can play no wrong with that, bro. I understand, Shaq. I understand you, Shaq. I understand your turf toe back in the day. I get you now. I get it.
That's it. And like I say, to the outside, it just seems small, but
Yeah.
a small injury like that has a huge impact because that's part of your push off when you're running. And so the more pressure you put on it, the more painful it can be. So I like the fact that you articulated that and then tied in the story of David Goggins with it. Um, I think, it's not a question when it comes to you that you are keenly aware on how to be vulnerable and how to create great relationships, right? But
Mm.
I would like if any version of your marathon journey or even prior to, can you kind of help us to understand, were there any relationships that you created, connections that you've created through vulnerability, like you just showed us here a few minutes ago? And those connections, like you kind of leaned on some of those in that process, or whatever that looked like.
Yep. And I'm gonna tell you who I had a better relationship with, and it's something that we don't talk enough about, and that was with myself.
Mm,
We often talk about relationships as with someone external, but we oftentimes don't talk about the relationship that we have with ourselves. And when we doing self-reflection and when you going through a journey, you are in a relationship with yourself, because there's the old version or the current version of you. And then there's that person that you're in a relationship. You're in a relationship with your future self, and you're in a relationship with the person, your past self. You know what I mean? And these three people are in constant communication, and they're always communicating. They have a relationship. You know what I mean? How strong the relationship is dictates mainly on this person.
Mm.
But what happens sometimes, we have a a bad relationship with this person in the past, and that relationship affects the person in the future. So I had to talk to this person a little bit, but I mainly focused on talking to that person, the person in the future. So me and the person in the future got real close. This is what we want. We want this medal. We
Yeah.
want this 26 miles. We want this sticker in the back. We want the journey. We want to figure out how much information we can learn while we on this journey. So
Mm.
me and the future self, oh man, our relationship grew. And this person behind me, this bad guy, our relationship ain't what it used to be. I'm sorry to tell you. I've kind of moved on. I'm hanging out with the future guy a little bit more than I like hanging out with this past guy. Not saying that the past guy is trash.
Right.
Not saying that. Maybe the guy was at 17, 18, 19, but the 44-year-old version wasn't that bad. 45-year-old version wasn't bad, but I'm 48, the 50-year-old version. That joker right there, he gonna be something else.
Yes, sir.
60-year-old version, he gonna be something else too. So I learned more and started focusing and spending a lot of time with my future self, who I want to become, who I am now, and the person I want to become. So these two jokers have been the ones who have relationship has blossomed or really blossomed during this that 20 weeks.
Man, that is so good. Like I really want to take all of this and just sweep off my desk right now. Like that was really good. Like if you missed it, you missed it. So let me try to kind of relate it to whatever it is you're going through. If
Hmm.
you're trying to be whatever that goal is in your professional journey, whatever that goal is in your entrepreneurial journey, whatever that goal is in your life journey, there's a version of yourself that talks to you every day, say, you know what, this is just too hard. Why don't we was having fun back, on the couch watching TV. I mean, you know, hey, at this time, your favorite show come on, right? Like these are the things that your old self is telling you. Like, why are you putting yourself in the midst of all of this? Like, you want to go through all that pain and frustration and rejection and all that other great stuff. But then your future self is like, hey, stop listening to that person and listen to me. I'm the one that know what it takes for you to get here. Listen to me. Spend more time talking with me than talking to that person behind you because that person is behind you for a reason. I'm before you. So what you have to do in order to get here, you have to recognize that you have to be the person that is before you right where you are so that you can move closer to that person. So I love the fact that you said that because that is so true across so many spectrums. And it also, and I'm taking a page out your book, it also remains to be true in the space of relationship. Stop
Hmm.
trying to be that old bitter person you used to be claiming you want great relationships.
Yeah.
No. Why don't you be the person that you need to be that's before you that great relationships can resist it, that can exist with? So thank you for saying that. And man, this time don't like us, man. I'm telling you, but this conversation is so good. We do have one last point, and what I'm gonna do for you guys
Mhm.
because I wasn't doing them all the way through the conversation, I will re-show them once we're done. So the last talking points, which I think is going to be phenomenal before we even get there, is redefining success. Now, I remember a while back in the beginning, we talked about this whole marathon thing, and we kind of went back and forth. You were sharing some thoughts with us, and I think this was one Friday night backstage after Heart Cement. And then I said, you have to determine what success looks like. I say to some people, success means completion. So, what thoughts went through your head, not necessarily that night, but throughout the whole journey when you started defining success?
Um, Success for me was completion plus. So I didn't want to just complete it. I did want to compete, but I was wanting to compete with myself. I wanted that. I wanted to be. I wanted to be challenged. And unfortunately or fortunately, the universe allowed for that to happen. Um, when I set out, I started training. The magic number is um, the magic number is 4 hours. If you do a marathon in 4 hours, that's like the magic number. And I was like, I ain't a runner. This ain't what I really love to do. So my goal is to complete it. But then I was like, bro, I can walk and complete it. I want to be competitive for me, what I think is competitive, not coach. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to set a goal of 10 minutes and 18 seconds. I said, I want to get done in 4 hours and 30 minutes. That was my training goal. So my training plan was set up on 4 hours and 30 minutes. I didn't think that I was going to be able to do 4:30. I thought that was a big thing for me, but I had to start somewhere. I didn't really have a starting point. So I was like, I'm gonna do that one, did the 20 weeks. So the goal initially was to complete it, but then again, I wanted to compete again with myself. So I set it up for 4:30. I ended up running 5:03. But even when I set it up at 4 hours and 30 minutes, I was like, I'll be okay if I come in around 5 minutes. I'm fine with that. I was like, I do not want to be out here for 6 and 7 hours, So I knew that I didn't want to go that slow, but I was okay with finishing around 5 hours. So me completing and competing within that time frame was okay with me. And what I talked about a few minutes ago, I was in my head the entire race because man, the night before I had everything packed up. I had my water, had my belt, Shell was ready, had the alarm set. She had her headphones. I had my headphones because she sat in the car because where we parked at and where the event started was at the mall, and there was like a bunch of other stuff around. So she ended up going to Starbucks and going to the bookstore and doing her stuff like that, and she still met me at the end and she was there and stuff like that. But bro, I got there, had everything packed up, man. I got there that morning, looking around the truck, man. I got packing my stuff up, man. Doggone it, I done left my headphones. You know what that means, brother? That means you got to go 26 miles with nothing but your thoughts. So the shell was like, hey, you can use my headphones. I was like, no, babe. So I had to suck that joker up. And that's what I was talking about, earlier. Like I was in my brain. I said that I wanted to be challenged, and the universe opened it up to where I was challenged. You know what I'm saying? It was like, bro, you asked for it. So when people talk about be careful what you ask for, man, you better be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. I asked for for it to be challenging, and I was challenged because I had to be in my head. And the first like 7 6 7 miles, I never really got comfortable. Like I never, and then the whole 26 miles, I never really got set. I never got in my groove. I never got like just that runner's high where I'm just rolling. I'm just smooth. I'm just kicking it. I never felt that way. Like I was in a struggle, but I came up with a rap song. Like I don't remember it, but I knew it when I was running. You know what I'm saying?
I just got one
Bro,
question because
yeah.
we talk about all of that. Did you find yourself singing cadence while you was running?
Yes,
I just want
absolutely. Out loud.
I
Out
just wanted to
loud,
know.
brother.
Oh my god,
It's a
man!
good way to
Listen,
catch your breath.
it is. It is. Listen, I thoroughly enjoyed this
Keep talking.
conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And as you guys listen, I hope you about to show us the medal. Show us the medal, man.
Medal, brother. Here we go. Here's the marathon. Here's the medal.
There it is. Bam. I love it. I love it. Thank you for
Run
sharing.
Durham.
I love that. I
Sir.
love that.
26.2.
There you
The
go.
one that's the only marathon medal I ever have. But Cheryl did say she gonna do one in a couple years, so who
Okay.
knows?
All right. All right. There you go.
I
Um,
know I told her she run the whole. I'll run another half. I'm done with the holes.
okay. All right. Listen,
But
I want to say,
who knows?
I want to say on behalf of everybody that I thoroughly enjoyed you sharing your journey with us. We don't get that all the time. Everybody is not as open and honest and transparent when it comes down to the things that they had to endure all the way. Most people just want to talk about the success, what it felt like in success, and I intentionally stayed away from that because I wanted people to experience the journey up to it. And I thank you for being I'm adult enough to do that, right? Um, because it's too easy to talk about the stuff after, and we
Mhm.
get caught up in it in today's society. You see what somebody's success look like. You see it on TV all the time. You see all of this other stuff. But what about the road to, like we used to call it in the army, the road to war? Like, how do you? What did the preparation phase look like? So, thank you for sharing that. One of the things I promised that I was going to do, and I'm going to do it right now, but I want to set the conditions before I do it. If you have final thoughts, I'm not going to give any final thoughts today because this conversation is all about you. If you have final thoughts and any last words you want to share with the people, just kind of get that organized in your head while I go over the five most profound lessons learned through failure. The first point was failure as a mirror, discovering unseen limitations and hidden struggles. And a lot of times, what we tend to do in the space of failure, we look at ourselves. Like we fail, we start focusing on where we're limited at. We start focusing on, I might be strong in this area, but I'm weak in this area. And so, unfortunately, sometimes when it comes down to setting, extremely high goals, what we tend to do is try to move in the direction of our strengths and then avoid those failures and limitations. So, that's point number one. Point number two is all about detaching worth from outcome, cultivating a resilient identity. What does that really mean? Well, there's an old saying that your value comes through the things that you do. Therefore, when you look at your accomplishments, that now in turn creates your value. There's a very this is a very slippery slope because then I will start relating my value to the things that I've accomplished, such as a master's degree, a doctorate degree, such as 20 something years in the army, such as all those different things, right? But we got to be careful with that because there's an authentic identity that equates to you. And so when it comes down to degrees and all of these other accomplishments, we will stay in that arena, but you might be called to do something different. So we have to learn to detach our worth from any particular outcome. Now, next is reframing failure as a step in a larger success strategy. Listen, failure is inevitable. It is part of the developmental process. Whatever goal that you set for yourself, you might as well expect someplace along the line failure to happen. However, it's always okay to plan for it so that you will have a way around it. This young man here, right? Not this young man, this young man. This young man here has 20 something years of military experience. So when it comes down to any injuries, he's been injured in the army before. It's virtually I don't even have to ask him. It's virtually impossible to be in the army for over 20 years and not get injured at all. I didn't had all kinds of injuries. I didn't had ankle injuries. I didn't had knee injuries. I had a chest contusion. I had all of those things, but I still had to work through those things. And so what we have to realize is that those are lessons that we can learn in the midst of those things. If you look at injury, what lesson did I learn? What did I do wrong? Right? Because that's a lot of the times with my own injuries, that's what happened. Not paying attention what I'm doing. It's a big old rock on the side of the street, and I'm laughing and joking with this person over here, and I stepped the wrong direction, and my foot hit the side of the rock, and next thing you know, I got a sprained ankle for the next couple of weeks. So we can learn a lot through our failure. So whatever you have failed at, don't just look at it as failure. Look at it as a lesson and ask yourself, what is this failure trying to teach me? Next, embracing vulnerability as strength. I so love the way that you answered this question. Like I can't stress that enough. Listen, the person before you and the person behind you. Listen, I did not want to interrupt the flow of the conversation, but that was golden. Like literally, it was golden. Hopefully, as everybody listened to that, you got that and you started identifying what the person behind you, because that person has a strategy, believe it or not. Generally, their messages sound the same, and it happens at your weakest moment or what you perceive to be your weakest moment. So learn the language of that person behind you and build a level of resiliency so you don't listen to him or her. Listen to the one that's before you that's trying to tell you, don't stop, keep going. And the last one is redefining success, learning to prioritize growth over perfection. I say it all the time, and I'm going to keep saying perfection is not the goal, progression is the key. So a lot of times what we need to do is rework what success looks like in our head. I love the fact that you articulated your success, because even with your success, and I didn't know, he never told me. When you shared your statistics, I like, bro, I said, you did really good. I mean, really well. Had no idea what his metrics of success was. But when I looked at it, I'm like, touchdown, that's success. Right? So the key here is what success for one person may not be success for the other person. But I'm so glad you shared it with us. But I still think you did great.
Yeah.
And that's my point. So that said, sir, I want to turn the floor over to you. We're not going to call it actionable advice. We're just going to say words of wisdom from the consistency coach. If you have anything you want to share, I'm not making you do so.
Yep.
But if you have anything you want to share, by all means, sir, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. I'll wrap it up by saying this. For the last couple of weeks, we've talked about, my journey as a, running through a marathon. And like you started to show off, this can be applicable to a lot of different things. It can be applicable to your relationships. You take your relationships, you start a 20-week journey and you try to accomplish something, it can happen. If you are starting a training program, you can, at the local college or a lot of different things. There are a lot of different things that you can do in 20 weeks. You can set a goal for to be a better cook in 20 weeks. And if you set up with a goal, you have a training plan, you cook something a couple of days a week, blah blah blah, you can be an expert at cooking that thing in 20 weeks. I guarantee you can. No, and not necessarily, like Coach said, it ain't necessary to go to be a perfecter, but you've just bettered yourself in a certain area of your life, and like we talk about with failure, failure is going to happen. And that person and behind you, that old person, they know all your failures because he was there. That person was there at every failure of your life. Your
Mhm.
past self has been there. I recommend that people build and try to develop a more keen and intimate relationship with their future self. Whoever the person you, if you're 48 right now, in 2 years, you're going to be 50. Who is that 50-year-old person? If you don't know that person at 48, you need to, because that's the person who has the ticket and the information on how to get there, right? How to get to 50, how to be what you want to be. But if you don't spend time thinking about where you are right now and where you want to be in life, you might miss the mark. So I say all that to say this, I appreciate everybody being here. I want to thank you for allowing me to have this space to share my story with you for the last 2 weeks. I know this is a little out of the ordinary for Coach's Corner, but this is something that Coach and I thought was important, and we thought that you guys could benefit something from it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and good luck to you, or whatever you want to call it, on your next future journey.
I love it. Listen, I have nothing further to add. That being said, you guys have a blessed rest of your evening, and let the best version of yourself, which is before you, by the way, be a blessing to somebody else. Have a good one.